Next tonight, the veterans showing the Dunkirk spirit 60 years after their historic operation. The skippers of dozens of little ships which took part in the evacuation of Allied troops were forced to postpone their plans to sail the Channel today because of gales. They now face an anxious wait overnight to see if conditions will be kinder tomorrow. Phil Bales reports now from Dover.
There was only one type of boat crossing the Channel today, big ones. As large white horses crash beneath the white cliffs, the little boats abandon their historic trip across.
Dunkirk, little ships, Dunkirk, little ships. This is flag. The decision is not to go today.
Outside the sheltered marina, even our cross-channel escort, the £250 million frigate HMS Somerset, rocked in the swell. The captain agreed with the decision to stay in port.
The wind is getting up to about 20 to 25 knots and the sea is up to about 5 or 6 feet, and that's too much for the small ships, which are designed not for open ocean, but they're designed for inland waterways and for canals and rivers.
Well, we've dressed for the part, but I must say I'm not at all disappointed at the decision not to go. Flaming June has taken on a completely different meaning.
Flaming weather, or salty language to that effect, was the harbour morning chorus. 60 years ago, the sea was flat calm, but veteran broadcaster Raymond Baxter says warships on the rescue put paid to that.
You're going along minding your own business and suddenly confronted by an 8-foot wake from a destroyer at full bore, maybe in the dark, no RT, all communication done by flags or Morse light. I mean, those guys were so brave.
Among them 100 Thames boats, many restored now, like Bluebird of Chelsea, which I should have crossed on today.
This is a repeat of the actual route during the war as well.
Her owner Martin Summers and skipper Scott Beadle make last-minute adjustments to the course. They're confident we will sail tomorrow.
It would have been rough out there and it was wet and pretty miserable. We'd have done it, but it'll be better tomorrow.
One not coming with us beat a dignified retreat. A German boat from Hamburg decided this, today, was not the place to be.
And Phil Bales is in Dover now, presumably below decks, nursing a tummy. Phil, where are you?
No, I'm certainly not below decks.
Oh, there
I'm
you are,
up here.
still looking
but
like
as
the
you can
Michelin
see, there you can see the jacket's no longer inflated with air like some sort of barrage balloon. The reason for that is that things have become much calmer here, and we're all pretty convinced that we will be going tomorrow, and are very much looking forward to doing it. It's important that they get there by Sunday. They could put it off for one more day and go Saturday, but I think tomorrow's on.
I mean, you were saying earlier on about being quite happy that it wasn't going to be the case, but just listening to those people you were talking to, the atmosphere down there must be fantastic, mustn't it, amongst the veterans?
Oh, it's absolutely superb. People are really enjoying themselves while they're here. They're not too frustrated by the fact that they had to, stay here for one extra night. It has been said that this will be the last trip, and I'm being told now that that's not necessarily the case. The owners of these boats want to keep this going and may well go again soon. Back to you, Alistair.
Quite right, too. All in favour of that. Have a great time and tell us all about it tomorrow, Phil. Thanks very much indeed.
Tonight, London's little ships honour the heroes of Dunkirk as the South East marks the 60th anniversary of the Allied evacuation.
First tonight, remarkable scenes as London's little ships joined the pilgrimage across the Channel to mark the Dunkirk evacuation.
They set sail from Dover to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Operation Dynamo to rescue 250,000 Allied troops. The first of the flotilla arrived at the French port this afternoon, a day late due to poor weather yesterday. Among them was our reporter Phil Bales on board the boat Bluebird from Chelsea.
A day late, but it was worth waiting for. Slightly overcast in Dover, but the seamen among us were convinced that as we left the white cliffs behind us, we'd encounter calm water, much as the little rescue flotilla did on these epic journeys across.
This is, of course, a pleasure trip for us today, and you can't help wondering what was going through their minds 60 years ago today when they left a port where they were safe.
The first to cross all those years ago could have had no idea of what they'd face 40 miles away, shelled by enemy guns, strafed and bombed by Messerschmitts and Stukas. For Bluebird of Chelsea's skipper Scott Beadle, this trip has personal significance.
Sadly, my father, who's dead now, he was at Dunkirk. He was picked up by one of the little ships, but transferred to a minesweeper. He would have loved this, you know, and it reminds me of the debt we owe to them all, frankly.
Our escort, the frigate Somerset, acts as sheepdog, bunching the fleet together in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, ensuring no other traffic crosses our path. This tanker was anchored, fortunately going nowhere. At first the sea was choppy, then quite rough where two tides met. Yet this classic 1930s 50-foot boat built at Hampton Wick cut through the waves with ease. It was exactly 60 years ago today that this little ship made her first crossing to Dunkirk. She came back safely, but as many as 200 didn't. Nobody knows exactly how many sank under enemy fire because no list was kept of all those that crossed.
It is an emotional experience because without the little ships we would not have continued to fight the war. And so it was a turning point in British history. And that's why it's commemorated the way it is.
Flat calm, brilliant sunshine, the French flag is raised, and here are those beaches. 1/3 rescued, many of them French troops. That's why this day is special here too. After an 8-hour trip, Bluebird of Chelsea returns to a hero's welcome. For though the remaining veteran troops grow old, the legend lives on through these little ships. In Dunkirk, this is Phil Bales for London Tonight.
Very emotional crossing for all those veterans, marking the last ever official anniversary of the landings and bringing our men back home. Simon Harris has the truly remarkable story of one of them.
Joe Barnes is still drawn to the sea. A few miles from his home at South Ockenden, a rusting hulk in Tilbury Docks provides a vivid link with his past. For this is a Thames tug, a Dunkirk veteran. And 60 years ago, Joe was a ship's boy on one like it. Just 14 years old, he went to war.
The main thing I can remember is all the ships, big ships, little ships, all sunk, just funnels sticking out the water, masts and all that, and of course, the bodies, unfortunately. I mean, I'd never seen a dead body before in my life. And then there was loads of them, just floating.
Joe was one of 9 crew aboard the Sun 12. Their job was to rescue British soldiers driven onto the beaches by the Germans and deliver them safely to warships offshore. And all the time under fire from guns and Stuka dive bombers.
Once the Stukas come over and mighty bangs and crashes and all that kind of thing, it was very frightening. I mean, you realise the loudest thing I'd heard before that was November the 5th when the fireworks went off, and of course they're not a patch on what they are today. So, yes, it was very frightening.
Joe ended the war in the Royal Navy, a veteran of battle. But when he left his Dagenham home for Dunkirk at 14, he never guessed a day's work would take him away from his mum for 2 weeks.
Where the hell have you been? So I said to her, oh, I've been to France. France? You've never been to Dunkirk? That's the place. Because Dunkirk wasn't well known in those days, but that's the place, I said. Oh, my God, she said.
When peace finally came, Joe Barnes had a young family and felt unable to continue his life at sea. He spent 43 years as a London bus driver. But this weekend, he's again crossing the Channel to remember, as he puts it, the day he went to work as a boy and came home a man.
And like so many, they went back to fight until they got it right. We hope to be going back to Dunkirk later in the programme.
And now we return to our top story. Simon Harris, who joined the little ship's pilgrimage across the Channel to mark the Dunkirk evacuation. Simon Harris, are you able to join us? An emotional day for all those involved.
Anna-Marie, a tremendous atmosphere in the centre of Dunkirk tonight. All the little ships have safely arrived. They were a day late, but boy, did they choose the right day to do it. Out there in the Channel, mid-morning, It was a magnificent sight and almost a mill pond. Conditions were perfect and oh so similar to 60 years ago when they set out on that amazing rescue of 300,000 British troops. But tonight they're back in the harbour, as they have done on occasions over the last 60 years, and many hundreds of people have turned out to welcome them.
Simon, what else is planned for the weekend?
Well, the ships will be here, but of course the real focus will be on the veterans. This is the last official meeting of the Dunkirk Veterans Association. On Sunday, they'll march through the town. The salute will be taken by Prince Charles. And then in the afternoon, the little ships will move offshore into a circle, and a Lancaster bomber will drop 300,000 poppies, one for each one of the lives saved. Back to you.
Good to join you, Simon. Thank you. War veterans have been remembering fallen comrades at a memorial service in Dunkirk. Among them a retired railway clerk from South London who laid a wreath to the 97 soldiers who were massacred by German troops. Simon Harris reports from Dunkirk.
Their numbers are dwindling, but the survivors of the British Expeditionary Force can still crowd the lanes of northern France. When Bert Hume first came this way 60 years ago, progress was painfully slow. The young soldier from Greenwich was desperately trying to reach Dunkirk, but every road was blocked with abandoned vehicles and fleeing refugees.
It was murder. It was absolutely diabolical. I mean, you was going along the roads, on the main roads or wherever you could, and Jerry was machine gunning and bombing, you know. I mean, you couldn't move.
One atrocity in particular is remembered each year by the veterans. It was here in a barn in the village of Paradis that the SS executed 97 British soldiers who'd surrendered. Bert Hume laid a wreath at today's ceremony. He and 1/3 other men were the lucky ones. By the time Bert Hume reached Dunkirk, he'd walked for 25 miles. With the beaches under constant bombardment, his ordeal was far from over. But he had a bizarre priority.
Oh, God, my feet are killing me. I went down to the sea. I took off my boots, my gaiters, and I had a paddle. I started paddling. Oh, God, oh, the salt water around my feet was gorgeous. Oh, what a relief.
Tomorrow, the anniversary commemoration will again focus on the little ships, many of them from London. They crossed the channel yesterday. Prince Charles will pay a visit before taking the Dunkirk veterans final salute in the centre of the town. In northern France, this is Simon Harris for London Tonight.
Hello and a very warm welcome to 7 Days. The climax of a weekend of commemorations at Dunkirk is well underway, marking the heroic World War II evacuation. The 60th anniversary celebrations will be the last. We'll be going live to northern France for the very latest. Another house price survey out this week showed property values continuing to soar, but there are conflicting signals, with some suggesting a slowdown is now underway. Will Rayner will investigate that, and Amy Gelber reports on a growing trend that's helping Londoners get around the capital. Today sees the climax of the commemorations at Dunkirk, marking the 60th anniversary of the heroic World War II evacuation. Well, joining us now live from northern France is our reporter Simon Harris. So, Simon, what's actually happening today?
Well, Natasha, a few hundred yards from here in the centre of Dunkirk, the Prince of Wales has arrived to take that final ever salute by members of the Dunkirk Veterans Association. This afternoon, he'll come down to the quayside here to inspect the 61 little ships that sailed across the channel earlier in the week. And then later on this afternoon, the boats will slip their moorings and head for the beaches for one final ceremony. The climax to what promises to be a remarkable day at the end of a remarkable and memorable weekend. Breakfast on board the little ships this morning, a freshly baked baguette in the French sunshine. The relaxed atmosphere in marked contrast to conditions 60 years ago. Then the Monarch was a Southend pleasure cruiser which set sail to rescue soldiers from the maelstrom that was Dunkirk. She's here today from her home on the Thames at Hookham.
The reception here is better and grander than it's ever been. Never seen so many French people interested in it. Of course, there's a tremendous number of English here as well. So yes, it's been a wonderful weekend.
The little ships, many from the Thames, are berthed in the centre of Dunkirk, a focal point for the anniversary commemoration. These boats are true Dunkirk veterans, but Dunkirk's heroes were the sailors who crewed them and the soldiers they rescued. Men like 82-year-old Bert Hume from Lee Green, who walked 25 miles to the beaches and then almost drowned trying to board a boat.
I couldn't get in it. This was drifting, and of course, you don't think of these things, but I mean, I had my overcoat on, I had all my webbing equipment, I had my water bottle, I had wire cutters hanging on, and a couple of hand grenades in my pockets. I went in on there for dear life. I couldn't climb on the boat.
And men like Joe Barnes from South Ockendon in Essex, a ship's boy on a Thames tug, aged just 14. Today he's Dunkirk's youngest veteran. The rescue of 330,000 men was certainly a miracle, but not apparently worthy of a medal at the time.
Well, I mean, Churchill wouldn't give us a medal for it because he said you don't get medals for running away, but what the gentleman forgot, that the Navy didn't run away, and it's a bloody good job they didn't too.
It's taken 60 years, their numbers are dwindling, and there won't be another gathering like this. But finally, the survivors of one of the most extraordinary and unlikely triumphs in recent British military history are being honoured. And the Prince of Wales is expected down here on the quayside at the Bassin de Commerce in about 45 minutes' time. And I can tell you, having wandered up and down this morning, that the ships, or the boats, are all ship-shape. None more magnificent, I have to say, than one Thames cruiser called the Bluebird of Chelsea. And its owner, or should I say proud owner, Martin Summers, is with me now. Martin, first of all, that channel crossing on Friday, I mean, it was a pretty exciting time, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. The weather was good. We didn't go the day before, but it was a memorable cruise. And it's the last time the veterans are going to come, but the little ships will go back every 5 years.
We heard from a skipper earlier that the reception here has been magnificent. How have you found it?
Incredible. There are tens of thousands of people lining the streets, and I'm particularly proud that 4 of the little ships that came over have never made the crossing before, because they've been restored by the trust we set up, the Dunkirk Little Ship Restoration Trust, and this is their first return cruise.
Of course, restoring ships like this costs an awful lot of money, and you've had some problems with the lottery fund, haven't you?
Initially, yes, but we are in good dialogue now, and I'm sure that we are going to work out a plan where we can restore some of the boats, not necessarily the prettiest ones, that are still here, and some are in bad condition.
What's it like owning a ship like this, apart from expensive?
Well, it makes one very proud. The father of my skipper, Scott Beadle, he was lifted from the beaches and transferred to a minesweeper, so it's particularly poignant for him. But just to own one and be able to preserve a part of history is something I'm very proud of.
And this afternoon, briefly, what are you going to be doing out there?
We'll be in a circle, all the 61 little ships. There are 63 now, because 2 more have made it last night. And we'll form a circle, and then Spitfires, a Hurricane and a Lancaster bomber will come over and drop a wreath and poppies into the middle of the circle to commemorate the lives that we saved.
It promises, as I said earlier, to be a memorable moment this afternoon. We wish you the best of luck this afternoon, and bon voyage back to Chelsea via Ramsgate, I gather. I hope the crossing's as good as it was coming over. But Martin Summers from the Bluebird of Chelsea, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll be reporting on this afternoon's events in full in an extended edition of London Tonight. That's at around 6 o'clock this evening, when we'll have pictures of that dramatic fly past and dropping of poppies over the circle of the little ships. Natasha, back to you.
Simon Harris, live in Dunkirk, where the weather is thankfully holding up. Thank you very much indeed.
Tonight, a royal tribute for the heroes of Dunkirk. Prince Charles honours London veterans and their comrades as the Dunkirk Veterans Association takes its final salute. Hello, good evening. The Prince of Wales today added his tribute to the veterans of Dunkirk at the climax of their 60th anniversary commemorations in northern France. The war heroes, many from London, set sail from Dover to rescue 250,000 Allied troops as part of Operation Dynamo. Today, Prince Charles took the salute at the last official parade, praising the veterans and their true Dunkirk spirit. Simon Harris was there.
If Bert Hume was beaming with pride, it's because he's entitled to. The 82-year-old veteran from Lee Green has returned to Dunkirk many times. His story of rescue 60 years ago is just one of 340,000, but no less remarkable for that. In 1940, he reached the beaches after a 25-mile walk, then almost drowned boarding a boat.
You don't think of these things, but I mean, I had my overcoat on, I had all my webbing equipment, I had my water bottle, I had wire cutters hanging on, and a couple of hand grenades in my pockets. I'm hanging on there for dear life. I couldn't climb on the boat.
Joe Barnes carried the standard today of the Pool of London branch of the Dunkirk Veterans Association. A retired bus driver from South Ockenden in Essex was just 14 when he went to war, a ship's boy on a Thames barge. But like everyone else, this boy's courage under fire was not deemed worthy of a medal.
Well, I mean, Churchill wouldn't give us a medal for it because he said you don't get medals for running away, but what the gentleman forgot, that the Navy didn't run away, and it's a bloody good job they didn't too.
But today, Joe Barnes, Bert Hume and hundreds of other veterans were finally honoured, 60 years after one of the most extraordinary and unlikely triumphs in British military history. In the centre of Dunkirk, the Prince of Wales took the salute of their association's final reunion.
I pray that you will enjoy your final parade, and I hope that you will enjoy the hospitality of this fine city. You deserve it, and I salute you for everything you stand for.
Well, that's very nice, yeah, quite pleased.
The Prince also paid tribute to the little ships which took part in the evacuation, 63 tied up in the harbour today, many from the River Thames. And on board one of them, the Prince got to meet the youngest veteran of them all.
I was 14.
Yeah. Were you suddenly commandeered?
Yes, from the Albert Dock.
This afternoon, the little ships and their escort HMS Somerset anchored off Dunkirk in a circle. On the same beaches where they came so close to death 60 years ago, the survivors gathered for the last time as French Air Force jets roared overhead. An RAF Lancaster, Spitfire and Hurricane joined in the flypast. But the promised 340,000 poppies dropped from the Lancaster's bomb bay were nowhere to be seen.
And we can join Simon Harris, who's in Dunkirk still. Simon, an emotional few days for the veterans, but what's next for the flotilla of little ships?
Well, there's a bit of a wind getting up here on the beach at Dunkirk, and the flotilla of 63 little ships has returned to the harbour at Dunkirk for the night. But tomorrow, weather permitting, they'll set off back across the channel as they came on Friday with their escort frigate HMS Somerset, and should be back in Dover tomorrow evening. Unlike the veterans, the number of ships isn't dwindling. In fact, every year another wreck is found and restored, and so there are more coming on stream, and they hope, the Ships Association hope, to be coming along at this event every 5 years.
Simon, we've been told this is the last official gathering, but surely this doesn't mean that the war heroes won't be meeting again.
Yes, I think that's probably the most poignant aspect of this weekend. It's taken 60 years for their annual reunion to get this sort of recognition, and it's the last one. But no, some of those old soldiers will be back. Their individual branches have vowed to continue despite the disbanding of the official Dunkirk Veterans Association, and each year they plan to carry on their pilgrimage for as long as they can. Anna Maria.
Thank you. Simon Harris reporting there from Dunkirk.